Just to give you a brief about myself and to all the students who are here. First of all, hello everybody. I'm sorry about my shabby background because I'm in the middle of shifting houses between Pune and Bombay. Having said that, all of you look very sharp, and I love the backgrounds that everybody's at one page. So I'm an engineer by qualification. I had finished my engineering in 2012, and my dad had told me that he'd buy me a car if I top university. I topped university. He bought himself a car and he gave me his old car. So that's where my journey towards becoming an engineer actually started. And then I went to an American firm called Eaton, which is a power management company, and worked in an R&D for, I was coding transmissions for trucks for about 6 months. And I shifted to business development, worked in business development for a year. And then I quit my job because I wasn't very happy with my job profile. So I quit my job. And luckily, during my engineering, apart from studying, I'd done a lot of events. I had hosted a lot of events. So a lot of people knew me back then. So when I quit my job, I went to this guy because I wanted to apply for, one of the Ivy Leagues to do my MBA, studying my GMAT. I went to this guy that in the interim, I should have a job profile because MBAs require a big job portfolio. And I went to him and he said that, I'll give you a job if you host this corporate cricket event for me because I like your voice. I was like, okay. So I went and hosted it. It was on the 26th of Jan 2014. And he never gave me the job, but he gave me another cricket league to host in the month of Feb. So I, like in terms of, I was calculating everything in terms of what was the salary that he would Eaton was paying me. That much is what I required to sustain myself in Pune, and then I want to go and do my MBA. But then I asked Menon saw me in one of the, he's a very famous cricket journalist, and he saw me in one of the corporate cricket events that I was hosting. And he said that you should go and audition with Star. I went and auditioned with them, and I got rejected 4 times. So I remember there was this night when I was like, this is not my cup of tea. I should go ahead and do my MBA. And I was applying in Penn State University. And I remember 50,000 rupees was the, I think the first fee that you had to pay. I think the first tuition fee. And just before I was going to press the enter button, I sent another text to the talent management at Star. It was headed that time by a man called Mervyn D'Souza. And I said that, listen, I'm not sure if you remember me, but you've rejected me 4 times. I was wondering if I could apply the 5th time. And he said, can you come tomorrow? I was in Pune. He was like, can you come tomorrow? We're doing an audition for hockey, tennis, badminton, and kabaddi. And I was like, sure, I can come. So I booked a cab overnight, went and gave an audition for hockey, and I got selected. So that was my my journey into entering media, because I'd never done media before. I'm an engineer. So I did hockey, I did kabaddi, and then after that I moved to Sony. I've hosted the NBA for 3 seasons. I am out and out basketball fanatic, and apart from that, I have recently started hosting cricket. So I got my very big break with cricket, which was the CWC 19 Cricket World Cup 2019, and then I did the T20 Cricket World Cup Women's in Australia. After that, the pandemic hit, so I've been doing a lot of cricket after that. But everything has been happening just like we are doing this seminar right now. So that's that. This is a bit of my introduction of what I do, and please feel free to ask me any questions. I had told Ayush that there is no agenda that I profess, but if you have something that you ask me, and if you can learn something out of that, that is what that will be the best way of learning. So just feel free to ask me any questions.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Arya. So it was really nice to hear your story and how it all started. But in your formative years, had you ever thought that you'd be doing a profession this dynamic? How did your interest actually spark? When you were a little child, did you ever think you wanted to do something like this?
That's a very good question, Arya. Thank you. See, the thing is that I had never really thought that I'd make a career out of it. But since my childhood, I was very interested in public speaking. So, like elocutions, debates, news reading, everything to do with that, I was there. But I never really thought that, like in India, at least when I was growing up, my vision towards what all can be your career was very limited. Like my parents still don't believe that I get paid to talk because it's unheard of. Like my relatives still go like, "Kitna hi kama lete hoge?" Questions like that do occur. So it's beautiful how there are so many professions. Whatever you can think of, you can make a profession out of it. Is what I've learned now when I've made a career out of speaking. But I never thought that I would, like make a career out of speaking. But I always thought that I will do well. Like I knew it from childhood that I will do well. Like I just wanted to at least believe in that. So I believed that I would do well, and I never believed that I would actually become a presenter on TV. This I didn't know, but it unfolded.
That's an interesting story.
Thank you.
Hi,
else?
ma'am. Very good
Hi.
evening. Niharika here.
Hi,
Ma'am, you
Niharika.
are an inspiration for girls like me who want to build their careers in thoda hatke sense mein. But I mean engineers and all. So yeah, I'm really in awe of your personality and everything.
Thank you.
Ma'am, my question would be to you is that we got to know that you work for Radio Mirchi as an RJ. Ma'am, how did you recognize that sports anchoring and broadcasting was your calling? I mean, how did you get so specific about your domain when you started out and, you know?
Thank you for the question, Niharika. Sometimes I will tell you that sports broadcasting has happened to me by chance. I haven't chosen sports broadcasting. Sports broadcasting chose me. The only thing that I really knew while I was getting up on this career is that I have never marketed myself. I've never really paid an agency to push me. I've never ever gotten affiliated with any managers. Nobody managed me. There's no agency that managed me. Nothing, nothing. The only thing that I knew that one form of marketing that would work for me is word of mouth, because there was no other way that I could have thought of. And also, like I was a very cautious talent. Like I wanted to make sure that everything that I'm doing is ethical. Everybody around me is happy because I came from a corporate culture. So that corporate culture in me as a talent always existed. So I always knew that if I did this particular job well, I would get 4, 5 jobs out of it. So sports, when I was doing the first cricket commentary gig, I think I've never really worked hard as much as I worked hard in that particular cricket commentary gig that I did. I mean, went to my mother, watched every YouTube video, saw every World Cup, listened to every commentator, wanted to know every team, the players. These are domestic players that I'm talking about, not even domestic players. I'm talking about local club cricketers. Wanted to know every cricketer, and then the energy that was required on the field. I don't think I've ever worked that hard. So I think that the fact that I did well in that particular event opened my doors to various other events and various other sporting broadcasting, avenues. So how sports works is that it's a very, very ethical, very, very corporate cultured domain to be in. If you're good at your job and if you're wanting to learn, if you have the knack of learning, knack of studying, because you have to study the sport a lot. So if you have the knack of studying, you'll do really well in this career. So studying came to me because, I was an engineer. So I knew how to study. I was pretty good with my CAD. So I think that is why I did well in sports anchoring. I never really thought that this would become my domain. I think the broadcasters, my producers, my directors saw it in me कि हाँ ये सीख लेगी. इसको ये sport आता नहीं है पर ये सीख लेगी. So like when I did the Asian Games in 2018, I mean, I didn't know there was a sport called sepak takraw. I didn't know much about squash. I didn't know much about, for that matter, hockey when I started on national television. But, the workshops that they give is all about studying each game and the history of the players and where they come from and everything. So if you can learn a lot, then this place is for you. So
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope that answers your question. So.
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you.
Hi, Ridhima. Yash here. So I've been into sports. I've played soccer for probably over a decade, and some of my friends have, always been myself inquisitive to get into sports management kind of, profiles where you manage teams. And so, can you share some of your experience on those lines?
On sports management.
Yeah. So that's like team management or organizing events that you already are, but majorly into team management. The way we have to manage the entire team. Let's say like IPL or something like EPL in UK.
So Yash, I have never been from the team management side of things. So I won't be the exact right person to answer this question because I'm more of broadcasting, I'm talent, and these two are very different avenues actually. But a lot of friends into team management, into sports management, a lot of youngsters into it. I will tell you that this is a very booming career. It's a very well-paid career. It is a career that is very demanding. So it's not a 9 to 5 job. There is nothing called a 9 to 5 in broadcasting in general. So these are crazy working hours. There are no working hours at all. It's a passion-driven industry. If you are passionate about it, you'll do well. If you're not passionate about it, you should sit at home. So it's very simple like that. Sports management, I'm not sure if even if it requires a degree, because I have a couple of friends, like there's a guy I know, Prashant Mishra. He was managing Virat and then he was managing Kochi Tuskers. So he did not really have a degree. He's an engineer, but he did really well because he got into the domain and started very well off networking and it was very ethical. So I think these traits count a lot more in sports management, where you are able to protect your athlete, to protect the integrity of the team. So I think these qualities are definitely looked into a person who's getting into sports management. But other than that, how to get in, I'm not the right person to answer that because I've never been on that side of the line. I've always been the talent, so not much idea about it.
No.
But thank you. But I'll get back to you if you require any queries, like any specific thing that you want to know. I can ask my friends and get back to you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Hi, Ridhima. Firstly, thanks a lot for sharing your journey with us because it's a very brave choice that you have made. You have chosen an unconventional career over a conventional one. So it is really very inspiring. My question to you is, since you have had a dynamic career as a sports presenter, live broadcaster, is there any event that you've hosted or live broadcasted where something that stands out of all the events that you have hosted, something that has been interesting and you would like to share it with us?
Sure. The NBA India games. I'm not sure. How many of you actually watch the NBA here? Does anyone follow basketball? All right. I see Anuj and Ankit following NBA. So, well, I hosted the NBA India games, and that was the very first ever NBA games that happened in the country. So I think I was a part of history in the making, is what I would like to believe. So that I would always remember. But I'll tell you, I'll tell you something more interesting about live broadcasting in general. So NBA India Games was my very favorite moment because I got the opportunity to speak to the NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. My favorite athletes that I'd only seen on TV and such huge-looking athletes. So I mean, these moments for me as a talent was very interesting. But I'll tell you something about live broadcasting. So in live broadcasting, it's actually, if you do a survey, it's considered as one of the most strenuous jobs in the world. And why they say so is because you have it in your piece, and so a director continuously keeps talking to you while you're talking to the athlete. So all the post-match presentations you look at where Harsha Bhogle is on the mic and he asks the question to Virat, like if he's won the match, so how did it go and blah blah blah. The director is also feeding into him that what is the programming wanting to do next. So as an anchor, to be a very good anchor, why Harsha Bhogle is one of the best commentators that we have in the country is because not just is he a good talent, but also a great producer. His vision towards how a TV should look like is beautiful. So one of the most strenuous things about live broadcasting is the fact that you are able to hear someone while you're talking. So I remember Kapil Dev had trained us into it. At Star Sports, they did a workshop. And what he did is he told me कि आज से ना तुम जब भी किसी से बात करोगी एक कान में म्यूजिक सुनते हुए करो. So while I'm listening to music, I should have that span of attention that I'm able to hear your question and answer it. So I'll share a very funny incident that had happened with you. In hockey, hockey was my debut on national television. So I literally in the post-match presentation went like, if anybody has that video, I went like, hello and welcome to Star Sports Hero Hockey. That slow I went so that I don't miss anything that my directors say. Anyway, 2-3 weeks into the event, I got comfortable and now the director started messing with me. So I remember there was this hockey player called Rupindra Singh that I found extremely handsome. So the director told me, so the director was feeding me questions. So I was speaking to Rupinder and he said that the director in my ear said, Ridhima, we're throwing to his second goal of the day. So I said, all right, so tell me more about the second goal of the day. Then he said, ask him about his injury. I was like, all right, so what about that injury? How are you healing it? Ridhima, ask him his number. I said, okay, what's your number? I said, what? So these things happen. This was one of my very funny incidents that had happened. So directors start messing with you because then you get comfortable with the area. But that's the beauty about live broadcasting. If you master the art of listening from one ear and hearing from the other, then you'll be a great live broadcaster. That is the only trick. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Ridhima. That was very candid. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi, ma'am. This is Joshika here.
Hi, Joshika.
Yeah. So, ma'am, thank you so much for taking out time for all of us personally. We are absolutely thrilled to have you with us today. So, ma'am, like you mentioned, you come from an engineering background, and you faced a number of rejections before finally getting selected. So, what I would like to know, what is that one thing that kept you going on, or what was that inspiration or driving force behind constantly trying for the one break that you got finally?
I think, when I got the first break, it was a little unexpected. So for me, it was like there's nothing to lose because my acad was so strong. I told you, right? I always thought I'll do well in life. So whether it was live broadcasting or not live broadcasting, I thought I'll do well in life. So it was like अगर ये मिल गया तो सोने पे सुहागा, नहीं मिला तो मैं कहीं जाके MBA करके मैं आगे कुछ करूंगी. But when this happened, so when TV happened, now when you've got into this space, I always tell people that to get into the door is not as hard as to maintain yourself there. So I think that is more of a struggle rather than, getting the first opportunity. So after that, I just got too involved into learning the tricks of the trade. And what kept me going is the fact that I was learning it well. I was learning the tricks of the trade very well. I was understanding what is required of a woman presenter, So the thing is that a lot of women are not into sports broadcasting, and that needs to change. And one of the reasons why they are not is because in our country, a lot of women don't watch sports. That is a major, major drawback. So I realized that I really, really need to enjoy sports, watch every single sport that comes. So I became a sports fanatic. So once I realized that I understand sports, that gave me an edge in confidence over most of my colleagues. So that kept me going. So I thought to myself, now I understand sports, now what? So now we have to look presentable on camera. All right, so let's just drop some weight. So we do that. Then that gets me going. That happened. Then got to learn the ethics of the trade. No problem. Come from a corporate. We learned that too. So I think whatever came my way, the idea and the interest of learning that is what kept me going. And see, failure, you need to understand as to why did you fail. That nobody is wanting to reject you because because they're evil. It's only simple because there was certain thing that you lacked. And if it is a valid reason, try and understand what the reason is. If it is a valid reason, then go back home and learn. And if it is not a valid reason, move on. There are so many opportunities out there. So many. Like मैं कहती हूँ आज अगर 100 लोग भी presenter बन जाए, तब भी हर किसी के लिए काम है. So many opportunities are there. But if you're not ethical, if you're not good at your job, then there is no work. But at the same time, if you're good at your job, there is plenty of work. So I think that kept me going. I just wanted to understand why did I fail. That's about it.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thanks.
Hi, ma'am. So my question is regarding be it a sports event or any other event, what all goes into the background research which you do before presenting that show or before presenting that event? Like what
Good
exactly
one.
does your research consist of?
Yeah, good one. So if I was to host, say, an NBA that which I hosted every single morning, every Saturday, Sunday morning, the research is simple that you've watched every game that has happened before that. Or say if it's a season opener, then I should be very well versed with what had happened the previous season because that is what you're going to talk about. Number one. So you watch all the games is one research content that you do. Secondly, is your vocab because as a presenter, your vocab has to be really good, whether you're a Hindi presenter or an English presenter. So I think working on your vocab is of greatest essence. So learning 5 words each day. I don't know if you guys know about this presenter called Suhail Chandok. That man literally learns 6 words every single day. And every time he gets on commentary, he has to use all those 6 words. He somehow makes his sentences in a way that he's going to use those 6 words of the day in his commentary stint. So vocab is one thing that you really have to work on. Third is, as a woman, I really take care of how the presentation is supposed to look. Like, what is, I mean, if it is an NBA or if it is a cricket, then how different are my looks supposed to look? So that is something that I take care of, something that the broadcasters also take care of. Other than that, player research, what are the stats? So if it's cricket, I study Crick Info and Crick Buzz thoroughly. Take a look at what are the articles saying, especially NBA because there are not so many articles and I mean, apart from the NBA League Pass, I don't have access to the other shows that are happening in the US. So I read a lot of articles that are written so that I understand what is the kind of lingo that they're speaking because that lingo was very different from me when I came from India. So to understand what is the lingo that is happening in India, then you go through all the articles, follow them on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Because if I want to bring out something quirky about a player, it has to come from his social media because that's where all the youngsters relate to. So I follow them all. I stalk them all on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, see what's trending about them, and get that in. So I think that's the kind of research that is required. You have to be updated with what's going on.
Sure.
So yeah,
Thank you so much. Yeah.
that's all.
Good evening, Ridhima. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I have one question. Like it's from my own experience. Like when you are interviewing some celeb or something, what pre-event mindset you are making? Like in my case, like during my school days, I got an opportunity to interview MS Dhoni, and I was like not able to sleep the whole night. I was thinking, overthinking, and the second day it was like fumbled in the English script what I have written. Then I have shifted my that in Hindi during the interview day. First question is this, and second is this: like what kind of vibe difference you feel when you are interviewing a celebrity from the Bollywood or Tollywood and the cricket athlete or the athlete from any sports?
Good question. So Ankit, um, I think one of the reasons why you must have fumbled is because you must be a huge fan of MSC. I'm guessing, and
Yeah, it
like
was.
to see your icon, the man that you look forward to come alive in front of you. Any person would fumble, so you should not be hard on yourself for that at all. What I do is that when I script down, so if I've written down my questions, I try and think that I'm going to have this conversation with a friend. So while my script would say that, so Ankit, what was your first stint with MS Dhoni like? So this is what is written. But if I'm talking to Ankit as a friend, I'll be like, so Ankit, tell me, what was your first stint with MS Dhoni like? There's a casualness that comes with it. So I
Yeah.
don't try and stick to my script because I really feel that spontaneity brings the best out of people. So that is one thing. But I'm guessing, so this has come with practice because I've been on television for a while. But if you're doing it for the first time, I always tell people that look into the mirror and rehearse. And
Yeah.
once you're done with rehearsal, don't go back to it. Then just think of MSD as yet another guy that you know from school and you're going to ask him about cricket. Simple as that. So if you think about it, it's all a mind shift. If you think about it, then it's just general curiosity that I really want to know दैट कि तुमने वो शॉट खेला तो कैसे खेला. तो अगर तुम जेन्युइनली वो जानना चाहते हो तो वो बहुत ही नॉर्मल तरीके से तुम्हारे मुंह से निकलेगा. But if you think that no, it has to sound in a specific way, that I'm going to take a, that actor's pause, we say, we're going to take a pause here when I say what and why, then you're going to screw it up on camera. It has to be general curiosity. You should be generally curious. So then the questions will come out, right? Your confidence will be uptight. I'm sure as a cricket and a sports fanatic, everybody really wants to know their players. You really want to know that, when he was in Railways, what was his struggle story like? So ask just how you want to know it, and then he'll answer it with as much passion. Number one. So number two is the vibe of, Bollywood, Hollywood, and cricketing stars. The difference in the vibe is that Bollywood में थोड़ा सा तमाशा ज़्यादा होता है, like उनके 10 लोग आते हैं, फिर उनकी vanity vans आती है, फिर the major difference that I feel, even if that is the case, the major difference that I feel is that sports really respects time. So if you say 2 p.m., they will show up at 2 p.m. And if you're like 3 seconds late, they will call it out as well. So one thing that sports really taught me was punctuality. So that I feel that somewhere across the world, maybe a little missing. I've never interviewed a Hollywood star. I've only interviewed a Bollywood star. So Bollywood, maybe that would be missing. But I love the thing about sports, that they respect my time and they respect their time. If they said that an interview is scheduled at 5:45 p.m., it will start at 5:45 p.m. That's the beauty about sports. So yeah, that's a major difference.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Hello.
Thanks. All the best to you.
Hi, Ridhima. Good evening.
Hi.
Yeah, it's glad you are part of this session and making it really enriching and engaging as well. So apart from being a sports presenter, I learned that you're also a corporate trainer. So what has been your most challenging part of your career as a corporate trainer? That's my first question. And the second question is, how do you manage difficult clients?
So, how I manage difficult clients is by just putting on a smile and agreeing to what the things that they're saying that make sense to me, and putting a foot very firmly, as difficult as they are, I get as difficult with things that I do not agree with. So that's how you manage difficult clients. You deliver to your utmost capability, and if they're not happy, you understand what they're not happy about. If you are making valid points, then you just say sorry and try and make up for it. If they are not making sense, and while you've delivered and if they still want to be difficult, then you just put a foot forward down. So I think that's it. So I love difficult clients because I feel like they push your limits. Number one. So that's that. Secondly, corporate training. I think one of the biggest challenges that happened to me when I started corporate training was that I started with senior leadership. And senior leadership, I was very young at that time. I was, I think, 26 or 27. And they didn't take me as seriously because I didn't have much gray in my hair. So I think that was the biggest challenge that time, that, they weren't taking me as seriously because I was very young looking. But when I started speaking and telling them about, the points that I was making. So 2 things that I teach in corporate training is career shifting, number one. And secondly, public speaking. So I think I had one major gig, which was I was training the Bihar State Assembly to face the camera. I think that was the toughest thing that I have ever done in my life so far. And I think they were difficult clients as well as people who were not taking me very seriously. So that has been the biggest challenge. But if you're really, really confident of the art that you bring forward, if you're really confident about the skill sets that you have, I think everybody understands and respects that at the end of the day.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thanks. Does that answer your question, though?
Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. Surya Pathak this side.
Hi, Surya.
Today, even I am feeling pretty like stargaze, like I'm watching a star, because I'm habituated to watching too many videos of sports presenter. I was very big fan of Harsha Bhogle, Mayati Langar. So and Mandira Bedi, who started as a sports presenter in the World Cup of 2003. So I want to ask how would be the journey of women's sports presenter is India is emerging nowadays, because it started mostly from Mandira Bedi, and now there are too many women presenters we are seeing, which is very inspiring.
So I think you said it right there. The career looks really bright for women presenters. But I think women have to understand the fact that, which the sports broadcaster is also making very clear these days, is that just talking well and looking good, it will not suffice. You really have to know the sport, which means you have to watch the sport. You can't study a sport as much. You have to watch it. There is no other way out. So if you're really, really keen in watching sports, then let me tell you, this field is really giving. It's a very giving field. It's got respect. It's got respect for your talent. It's got respect for your time. It's got respect for your value. Everything. And sports is a great field to be in, because I always say that the fact that I love about my job is that I see inspiring people all around me. I mean, if I have to learn resilience, I've got a Kohli right in front of me. If I have to learn leadership, I've got an MSD right in front of me. So I feel like I'm really blessed to be learning from the best in the business around me. And the only way a woman presenter can do well is if she really understands the sport. You cannot just stand in front of the camera and say and be a very good orator. That's not what it is. You have to watch the sport. You have to have questions that make sense, because let me tell you, your audience is still, in India at least, your audience is still boys who come from the age of 11 to 25. And then there is a demographic of between 25 to 35. And these young boys who are watching sports, they eat, live, and breathe sports. Their knowledge on sports is fantastic. So think about it. Forget about the gender. Just think about it. No gender equality, nothing to get gender here. Why should you be given a place if you don't watch the sport as much as that young boy does? It doesn't make sense at all. So whether you're a woman or not a woman, just watch the sport. So you'll do well. Simple as that.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
So that's the beauty about my Auntie Lango, right? She really understands cricket very well.
Hi, Ridhima. Anam here.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today. And your journey is really inspiring, especially for someone like me who is passionate about public speaking. And each anecdote you share with us clearly cites out your love for the craft and the ethics with which you operate. My question is more revolving around taking you back in time to the point where you had to decide on choosing this career over the more lucrative careers in the eyes of the Indian society. And what kind of self-talk did you have at that time to convince yourself first that this is the path that you want to take?
Thank you for the question, Aram. And I will be very candid about it. I did not enjoy my job when I was working with Eaton at that time. I did not like my job profile. And I would come back and ask my parents, my father, and a lot of my father's colleagues, whether they really liked their job. I'm very serious about it. I did a survey. I asked them, did you like your job? And they said, well, some of them said that we learned to like it. Some of them said, no, we didn't. We wish we could do something else. And I just could not believe it, that you spent 30 years of your life, 14 hours in a day, doing something that you don't like. It was something that I couldn't digest. And I just couldn't come in terms with this fact. I just couldn't come in terms with this fact. I mean, that's a very big sacrifice to make. Now, when I understood from my father's generation is that of course, finances at that time was a very big issue at that level. You had to feed mouth. You were married at that time. So whether you liked the job or you didn't like the job, you had to take it up because money was a factor. I feel as kids, as kids who are privileged in a way that we've been given education, I think you should use this education to have a bigger impact on the society, because you're privileged that you have someone helping you put food in your mouth. Which means now is the time when you evolve as a human being. While your first generation, this is the self-talk I had, whereas your first generation did a great job of establishing you. This is my duty for the next generation to come that I establish and leave behind a legacy. This is the self-talk I had. And to do that, I really had to do something that I was very passionate about. Because to be working 18 to 20 hours in a day, sometimes 3 days without sleep, food, and water, can only happen if you're really passionate. Otherwise, it cannot happen. Or you're getting tons of money, either of the two. So, tons of money, ka pata nahi. I don't know whether it would have really sufficed me, but I can tell you that out of passion, I can live and eat and breathe on my work for the next 3-4 days without sleep. That much I like my job. And that's why I really feel I'll be able to leave behind a legacy, because at least, if not in terms of my work, at least to my child or to kids who I interact with, at least I'll be able to give out some level of passion and some level of, this drive to have a bigger impact on society than just making money and building one house and having a great car. There is more to that. That is something that your parents already did for you. So you have to do something bigger than that. Was the self-talk I had with me. So that's where I decided I should quit the job and work towards having a bigger impact on the society. This is what I don't know whether I'll be able to do it, but at least I'll start with that journey. So, yeah.
Good evening, Ridhima. This is Nirdesh this side. I had a question. I had two questions basically. So first one is, you have had a very, a diverse journey. So you did engineering, then you moved to corporate and then into media, which is a very unorthodox career stream as far as the engineering is concerned. So my question is, what are the experiences that you have carried forward from engineering and your corporate experience into this media industry? First one. And the second question is, who is the your role model, or who do you look up to in the broadcasting industry as your role model?
So to answer your question, who I look up to in the broadcasting industry as a role model, the answer is Ian Bishop. I think he's a fantastic commentator, and he's a really, really professional man. I mean, if I had to learn professionalism from someone, it would be Ian Bishop. Beautiful human being, and not only is a great commentator, but he's a fantastic human being behind the camera, and I really admire that. So I really like him, and he's my role model. To answer that, what did I pick up from engineering and corporate? From engineering, I picked up. This is going to be a little. How many engineers are here though? Is there no engineer?
When 80% of the batch is engineers.
All right. So guys, in engineering, you know this, right? That the exam शुरू होने वाला है और एक रात पहले पढ़ने लगे और कभी कभार ये जो preparatory leave होती थी हमारी पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी में, तो मैं तो सिर्फ उसी में पढ़ती थी. So I think that I picked up in engineering कि भाई अगर कल इवेंट है आज मैं पढ़ लिख कर तैयार हो जाऊंगी, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. So that is something that came to me from engineering, that I can study overnight. I can burn the midnight oil and I can be ready with my content overnight, which I feel that a lot of people who have not taken education very seriously in the field of media struggle with actually. So education is always going to give you an edge over anybody, for sure. And if you've been good at a CAD, then that is a bigger edge. Whether you're in the field of glamour, whether you want to be an actress, whether whatever, education is always going to give you an edge, somehow or the other. So number one was that. Number two, what happened with engineering is I do a lot of corporate events and I do a lot of edu events. So I landed up a fantastic job where I was teaching physics, chemistry, and biology from 12th till IIT JEE for an app called TutorMate, which is a competitor to Byju's. So it is a perfect amalgamation for me in terms of anchoring and education. So this is what, education science gave to me, and my anchoring came together and amalgamated that. And I was like, perfect, this is the best job in the world. So this is something that had happened. From corporate, what I learned is the basics of professionalism, the idea of being punctual, diplomacy. My boss, I remember, always said this, that, I was not a very diplomatic person, but I think that particular incident made me very good with my words, getting into a very, very high-end corporate sector where I learned diplomacy. I learned to use the right words at the right time. Negotiation skills came to me from my corporate job, because in BD I was in M&A, so a lot of negotiations on the table. So that skill came from there. Ethics. Eaton is a very ethical company. Ethics came from there, the corporate ethics. So these are certain skill sets that I picked up from my corporate job. Team activities. I honestly was a person who always was one single man army. I did not know how to work in a team, and I think you cannot survive if you don't know how to work in a team. It cannot be ek chana bahar nahi po sakta. So how to be in a team, how to respect everybody's role in a team, I learned from my corporate. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ridhima.
Hi.
Hi. I just have one question on a serious note. Like, I just want to ask you about the industry. So we all know that people say that the film industry is actually male dominated. I just want to know about the industry in which you are actually working on, that is broadcasting industry, and what are the things which you feel can be changed in the future for the benefit of women?
Yeah, comparatively it is male dominated because a lot of women have not explored it. So the ratio of men to women, men is more. I mean, I remember in the World Cup in the CWC 19, I was struggling to see women around. And then I went to the Women's T20 World Cup, it was all about women. So yeah, it is a tad bit male dominated, but I think men can't change that, women can. So more women who come in, more women who explore this field, things will change. And I have to tell you that the men in this industry are very recipient. They are very, very, they are not people who don't want women to come in. They want women to come in. And they're looking for women. They're hunting for women, who know sports very well, so that they come and take the job, because it's good to see women on the sidelines. It also works for the whole broadcasting frame. Very, very, this industry is very welcoming to women. I think women are not exploring this particular opportunity. Something that something that can change, that the broadcasting industry can change to make it more women friendly. Number one is the fact that have workshops for women anchors, because we've had 3 or 4 generations of women who've not paid too much attention to sports. So if there is a woman who's walking in and you think is presentable and you think is a good orator and knows live broadcasting, I think that they should hold workshops for these women to teach them sports, to at least understand how to understand sports. So I think there should be some workshops around that. Not just for women, I would say, even for men, to get a better understanding of, say, football, or say, cricket, or say soccer, hockey, or there's so many sports that men also don't know. Like, I went to the Asian Games and I never heard of a sport called sepak takraw, and India had won a medal in it. So get us introduced to sports like these. So I think these workshops will really help open women's vision to probably enter into a field like this.
Thank you. That's good to know from you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Ridhima. Ashika here.
Hi,
So
Ashika.
first of all, I'd like to say that you've definitely passed on the inspiration and motivation that you intended to. Am I audible? No?
Yeah, Ashika, you are
Yes,
audible.
Ashika.
Audible, Ashika.
Okay.
Hi, sorry,
Okay.
I dropped out.
No problem. So first of all, I'd like to mention that you have definitely passed on that inspiration and motivation that you wanted to pass on. That was your intent when giving yourself that self-talk. So what I want to know, that after getting to know all these experiences that you had with the broadcasting industry, I want to know if at all something you went through when like you were all prepared, but the situation did not turn out as it was expected to. And how did you manage and handle all those?
So, Ashika, I'll tell you something. The beauty about rejection is that somebody told me this line, कि कहीं पहुंचने के लिए कहीं से निकलना बहुत जरूरी है. So the beauty about rejection is that if, say, a set of people don't think you deserve it, which means another set of people really want you. So this is the beauty of rejection. One door closed, 2 doors open up. If you really believe in this is how your life will work. So I was rejected out of the third season of Kabaddi, and I didn't have much national television gigs to do. but I had a lot of corporate events to host. So while finances were taken care of, I was really missing being on TV. So I knocked doors of Sony at that time, and the then VP that time was Aloka Guha, and I was in touch with a cricket producer then, and he was not entertaining me. Like I sent him a lot of texts and a lot of calls, and if anybody who wants to be a sports anchor here and has a contact or anything here would know that some people get really busy and they don't answer to your texts and calls, and this man was just not answering my texts and calls. So I was like, okay, let me get in touch with this lady called Aloka Guha. So I sent her a text and was like, ma'am, can I just come for one meeting? And she was very kind enough and she let me come for a meeting. And that man, the producer, was also there. And I looked at him and I said, I'm so sorry. I've been chasing you like an obsessed girlfriend. So he went like, I'm so sorry. I played a little hard to get. So, a sense of humor always sort of helps you to break a door. And then Aloka told me that when you chase me for too long, I'm going to give you one audition. And you crack that audition, we'll speak further. If you don't, then, you quietly walk out. I say, okay, fair deal. It's a fair deal. So one chance. So once you're given that opportunity, you have to grab it with 3-4 hands. Went home, contacted a producer that I knew from LA to learn a little more about NBA, and did as much homework as possible for that particular audition. And I went for the audition and I got selected. So while that in Kabaddi I failed, and I wanted to know the reasons why, and I did not have a very clear picture as to what was the reason, but I'm sure they had the reason. Maybe I was not as good as I was in the NBA. So I think I learned a little the fact that you need to really step up your game every single time, because in broadcasting, it's very cutthroat competition. So you have to be better than what you were before. And the moment you just become very comfortable that, that I'm too good to be true now, that's where somebody else will step in. And that is where you feel like, oh my God, Sorry. So am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
So at that time, you'll feel that you're rejected, but you'll definitely learn something out of it and you'll just up your game. So this is how I handled rejection. I went all guns blazing to other broadcasters when one broadcaster shut doors on me. So that's the beauty. It's just how much you want to go forward in life. It's just that drive. Like, it has to be pagalpan. If you're really crazy, you have to be a little crazy. If you're really crazy, you'll do very well. This is what I tell everybody, that you have to be a little cuckoo in the head to actually go all guns blazing for what you want.
Yep, I like that spirit, Ridhima. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi, Ridhima. Hi, Deepshika this side.
Hi,
Firstly,
Deepshika.
thank you so much for joining us for this session here. And being an avid public speaker, that definitely strike a chord with me. I wanted to ask you around, what if people want to be a TV presenter? Where should they start from? Is she there?
I'm here. I don't know why my internet's dropping.
That's all right. That's completely all right.
Yeah, Deepshika.
I'm sorry if you missed it. My question around it was that if somebody wants to be a TV presenter, where should they start from? What should be that initiation point? Is it just going and grabbing on opportunities, or publicizing yourself? What should be that initiation point?
Deepshika, if you'd asked me this question about 3 or 4 years ago, I would be like, come to Bombay and try. But the beauty about social media and YouTube is that you need not wait for anybody to give you a platform. You have your Instagram, you have your Facebook, you have YouTube. If you think you have the potential to be a presenter, pick up a topic that you're curious to talk about, whether it's politics, whether it's sports, whether it's general news, whether you just want to share information, some crazy information that people don't know about. You want to share news on cryptocurrency, whatever it is. Just put a camera in front of you and start talking and you will get noticed. That's the beauty about YouTube. And today, going and knocking doors and broadcasters has become so old school, I can't tell you, because they are only picking up people who are great on YouTube and, social media. So I think the first thing to start off is to just start from today. That is how you should start. Just put a camera in front of you, your phone camera, and start presenting or whatever you want to. If you're curious to know what your neighbor puts in her dal, which is so tasty and yum, probably there's an audience for it. So it's just a belief in yourself and your YouTube channel. I think it's the best way to monetize. It is the best way to have your own niche and your own audience. You don't need anybody to tell you how good or bad you are, because it's immediate reward. If you're good, your audience likes you. If you're not good, your audience does not like you. Simple as that. So I think that's where you start.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Sush.
Hi, Ridhima. This is Archita. I had a question. As you mentioned that you go for like 1 season or 2 seasons back for whichever event you're hosting and get an idea what the last season looks like. But it doesn't work every time, right? Because you have to be innovative and a bit creative from your end as well. So what if suppose what creative idea you thought will work and you suddenly feel it is not working at that moment? So do you generally switch to another like idea, or do you stick to it, or is it on the producer to decide whether you have to go through that same path or not? Like how it works?
Yeah, I'm back. I have no idea what's happening, but yeah.
Sorry,
I'll heard till do you go back and any creative idea of yours that's not worked?
Yes. So in the middle of suppose that event, you realize that it's not working. So what does that take? Do you like what's the take you're taking at that very moment? Is it the producer's decision or your decision, or you stick to that plan? What do you do with that?
So to answer this question, I'll tell you something that your producer is always right. So in broadcasting, because the man can see it from a third eye point of view, so you should always listen to your producer. Having said that, there is always a space for spontaneity and creativity, and you can definitely explore it, which I always do. And the producer then tells you whether it worked or it did not work, or you can just watch it back and go back and see whether it worked or not worked. To give you an instance, so when I said that you go back and watch 2-3 seasons as a part of the research, I meant only in terms of content, not in terms of delivery and creativity. So the reason why you need to watch 2-3 seasons back is because of stats. Because to know कि Kevin Durant ने कितने 3-pointers मारे, कोहली कौन से ICC रैंकिंग पर है, या पिछले IPL सीजन्स में देख रहे हो तो फिर what were the auctions like and who was playing for which team and what does this man perform like in this particular season. So these are the kind of stats is what I mentioned when you go back to 2-3 seasons back and watch, so that you have a history of data. So that when you form your questions, like for example, if I have to form a question around Bangalore, so I can now just as a presenter, if I say that this season was Bangalore's best start to an IPL ever, I think it's a little incomplete. If I can add like in the previous season they started at 4 out of 6, in the next season they started at 3 out of 6. And then you have this season where they went on to having a double in the column in the first 5 matches. What changed? I think this adds a little more value. It shows as a presenter that I've also studied the previous seasons and come. So these are the kind of things that I'm talking about. In terms of creativity, sometimes I feel like my sense of humor sometimes goes flat on camera. So then I have to quickly change it and mold it in a way that that really is something that can work for an audience better. But sometimes I'll share an incident with you. Sometimes there are certain goof ups that you can't come back from. So there is this one incident of mine, and there is this one incident of Jatin Sapru that I'll tell you. So what happens is that when in broadcasting, when you're thrown to a break, there is no point where you can come back and correct yourself if you said something wrong there, because it's gone to a break, and those slots are given. So at say your show starts at 6 p.m. and 6:15, if there is a break, I have to throw it to a break. It cannot be 6:16, it cannot be 6:18, it cannot be 6:14, it has to be 6:15. So when you're throwing to a game or a break, the mistakes that you do at that time will be there on record forever. So I was hosting the NBA and 4 a.m. it was. 4 a.m. was my call time, and it was the 25th of December. So we were doing these all-star games. I'm sure people who follow NBA know it. So I remember I wanted to say, so everybody, let's get up for the battle, and here's the game. And this is how I wanted to throw it. Instead of that, I said, everybody, let's get up for the bottle, and back to the game. So there is no coming back to mistakes like that. And there was this one really interesting one that Jatin had shared with me, which was really funny. So he was introducing Sehwag. All right, he was introducing Sehwag, and he wanted to say, "ये ऐसे cricketer है जिन्होंने कई सारी पारियां खेली हैं." He said, "इन्होंने कई सारी नारियां खेली हैं." He made a goof up there. So after this, it is all spontaneity कि तुम कैसे cover up करोगे, क्या करोगे. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but you make plenty of mistakes like that. And sometimes mistakes also make broadcasting very lively. Like as an anchor, if you can make fun of your own self, of, probably, just make fun of yourself as to what kind of a stupid comment was that, I think that too works very well with the audience. So yeah, but other than that, in terms of creativity, I think everything has worked. I don't know, yet I'm yet to come across an incident where, I tried something new and that did not work. But there is a very, very limited avenue for spontaneous creativity in live broadcasting because there is a run order that is given. So the only creativity that can happen is with your words. So when I want to say that what a match it was between Bangalore and Mumbai, I can, say कि आज लगता है Bangalore एक कदम ज़्यादा आगे आ गए हैं क्योंकि मुंबई को हराया उन्होंने. तो आप ये चेंज कर सकते हो, आप कैसे बोलते हो सेम चीज को वो चेंज कर सकते हो, बट उसके अलावा क्रिएटिविटी के बहुत कम ये होते हैं बिकॉज एक कैमरा एंगल सेट है, रन ऑर्डर सेट है और आपको 2 मिनट के अंदर खत्म भी करना है. और जब आप थ्रो करो तो आपका डायरेक्टर आपको काउंटडाउन भी दे रहा है कि 10 seconds में इंटरव्यू खत्म करो, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and I'm like, okay, all right, thank you very much for talking. Back to you guys in the studio. You'll see that a lot, a lot of presenters go, thank you, sir. That's because the director said, just wrap it up. So he has to the mic and go ahead. So yeah, so there's very little avenues for creativity, but a lot of creativity can happen with your words, and that has worked so far.
So hi Ridhima, Vineet this side. Since you have been doing freelancing, I just want to understand what are the challenges on that domain, and if you have any advice for that freelancing
The
part.
biggest challenge about freelancing is the fact that there is no stability. You'll always be on pins and needles as to where am I going to earn my next bread from, right? So that is the biggest challenge of a freelancer. My biggest advice to any freelancer will be damn good at your first job, because your second job will only come from your first job, and the third will only come from the second, and the fourth will only come from the third. So the biggest disadvantage of freelancer is that there is no stability, financial stability. And my advice to a freelancer would be damn good at your first job. And secondly, understand finances really well. Because of the income that you have to become a fantastic financial planner. So always hire the right people to probably, plan your finances. Either way, I would give this advice to every youngster around. Gone are the days, dude, that you wanted to retire at 60 and 70. But this is only me. This is my idea of living. You want to start having a financial plan right where you're 25. And why not? Why should you have a financial plan when you hit 40 and 45? Have it now. And once you have that, you will see the amount of confidence that you have in yourself to do so many other things in life. Finances is one thing that once you have confidence from that angle, a lot of problems in your life get sorted. And honestly, to be financially stable, you don't have to be very rich. You have to be very, very smart. You have to be very, very calculative. You have to have a strong willpower. You have to have control. So if you have these elements, I think you'll become a great freelancer. So advice is be very good at your first job so that your second job comes from the first job. Secondly, have a great financial planning because there won't be any financial stability in your job. So if you have the financial planning, then that helps you take risks in life. So yeah, 2 advices for a freelancer.
Thank you.
Hi Ridhima, it's Aditya here. Am I audible?
Hi. Yeah, thanks.
So yeah, so my first question would be, how difficult is it to interview someone who has just lost a match? Okay, for example, Kane Williamson losing maybe the World Cup final after a super over, and they are like, they don't want to even talk also. Okay, and how difficult is it to interview like these people when they are like, they have lost the match and they are like, they're on the verge of tears? Okay, and my second question to you would be, how do you see the media presenting industry going ahead? Because I see a lot of events being cancelled, and like you might have already signed up for a lot of events, and then when you are just about to be there and then the event gets cancelled. So how is it in the post pandemic world?
Thank you for the question, Aditya. So your first question was, let's come to the first question.
Yeah. So how difficult is it to interview
how
someone who
difficult
has...
is it? Oh, it's a fantastic question. And I have been on that front too often for my liking. All right. So like I also did the Asian Games, right? So the Indian athletes at that time, the track and field athletes are very, very strong, passionate, aggressive people. And when they lose, man, they don't take it well. They don't take it well. So I think that is a very difficult part. And it's a very good question, is because how do you handle it? Is because your broadcaster has told you, that your producers told you have to get the question, you have to get the correct answer. So you ask them question in a way that how would you feel if you lost? So let the emotions breathe. Sometimes words are not as important as the expressions are. So I did this interview, I'm forgetting the name of the lady, the discus throw athlete, the very famous discus throw athlete of our, she's going to represent us in the Olympics also. I'm forgetting her name. But I remember I was speaking to her and she had just lost in the Federation Cup, which means she lost her chances of qualifying in the Olympics, this particular chance. Maybe she goes ahead and qualifies later. Shibana, I'll tell you the name, Malik, some Malik. I just asked her what happened. That's all I asked her. And that's it. As a human being, she told me that what happened. She told me, try to maine bahut kiya. And she started crying. So, you don't have to ask the right question. You just have to get the expression. As that is the idea as a broadcaster. So if you get the right expression for the audience, I think that works beautifully. Simple things like if today if I had to ask Kane Williamson something that that happened in that World Cup, I would probably ask him a weird twist of destiny, would you say? That's it. And then he would probably say a lot of things. So you can leave an open-ended statement and he can just add further. It doesn't have to be a question mark. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And my second question to you was like, how do you see the you're a media presenter and you see that events are being cancelled and you're just about to be there. Okay, so IPL is starting and there are already like pandemic, there's already cases coming up and all. So how do you deal with these kind of situations, and overall, how do you see it for the industry as such going ahead in the post-pandemic
I think
world?
it was fantastic. If you personally ask me, fantastic. As freelancers, the man who asked me as freelancer, your biggest fear, कि यार ये नहीं होगा तो फिर और क्या करेंगे? लो भाई हो गया. अब क्या करना है? You're already put into the situation. You found n number of ways of earning. So I think it's only boosted my confidence. कि चलो broadcast से काम नहीं दे रहा तो मैं अपने shows produce करूँगी. I produced Run Out with Ridhima. I got sponsors for that. I produced another show. I got sponsors for that. A lot of digital agencies started hiring me. A lot of betting companies across the world started hiring me for hosting digital shows and digital chat shows around cricket with players. So many things emerged that were unthinkable. I mean, we did something called as Club Cricket Talk with Brett Lee for Sports Adda, which was only for their premium members. I mean, these things were unheard of before the pandemic. I am very thankful in a way that I was thrown into a situation where I was forced to think out of the box. I was forced to think that if they kick me out tomorrow, what do I do? Here it is, I know what I'm going to do. So it was beautiful. For me personally, it was beautiful. It all worked out also for me. That doesn't mean that it worked out for everybody. So the post pandemic, I would say that I think broadcasters would learn that tech is a beautiful thing and we must embrace technology wholeheartedly. And with embracing technology, जो चीज 10 करोड़ में हो रही थी वो 1 करोड़ में हो जाएगी, you know. So it's a much more budget friendly way of moving forward. And I think the pandemic has only added to the media industry. It has opened the stage for so many other talent who were not getting a place before because सबको TV पे आना था. Now people want to be on digital. That is what happens with actors on OTT. This is what happens with sports presenters now. That there are so many platforms who want to do a show somewhere or the other. So I think it opened a lot more avenues, if you ask me.
Thanks a lot, Ridhima. Thanks for being so candid.
Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yeah, hi, Raj.
Hi, Ridhima.
You've been smiling all throughout. I've been watching you.
Your conversation has been really, really interesting. So thank you for your time, Ridhima. Your journey of stumbling into as a sports commentator and the sport media industry has been really inspiring. I really like it a lot. My question is two things over here. Like, cricket has been the dominant in sports in India, and football has been dominant sport all over the world. Do you think anywhere it's going to change in India? And second question is, have you met MS Dhoni? Can you talk a little about this? He's my idol.
About MSD?
Yeah, MS Dhoni.
Have I met him, you're asking me?
Yeah, means like I am actually I'm a fan of MS Dhoni and I really like his leadership skills. Can you talk a little bit about your conversations or interaction with him?
So to answer your first question.
First question was that cricket has been a dominant.
Cricket has been a very dominant. There is no doubt about that. Cricket has been a very dominating sport. And to change that, the only thing that we can do as an audience is watch more sports. Why should the onus be on broadcasters? Because broadcasters are only trying to make money. I think as an audience today, there are about, I can see 25 odd students here. If 25 of us watch 3 different sports, you've created an audience. And that makes us a sports loving nation. So I think it's more, the onus is more upon us than on anybody else. Because think about it, if today you, Raj, suddenly develop an interest in wrestling, you have probably given a chance to a child who did not have a future in some village in Haryana, because there is a man somewhere in Bombay and Delhi who is wanting to watch him. So the onus is more on the viewers rather than anybody else. So we are not a very sports loving nation, if you ask me, very frankly. We are on the right path because now people have started investing in sports a lot, thanks to corporates, Mahindra, Citibank. These people are doing some great corporate shows around sports, funding sports people. Their CSR activities are around sports. This is really helping people at the grassroots level. But I think the viewership, at the end of the day, kitne log dekhte hain. So the viewership has to come from us. So we should be sports lovers. We should watch everything that comes. We should want to watch tennis also. We should watch kabaddi also. हमको खो-खो भी देखना है. कितना कुछ है सीखने को और कितना कुछ है देखने को. So yeah, so I think the onus is more upon us. So that is the only way India will shift from cricket to something else. Though I think India did a great job with kabaddi. I think we did a great job with kabaddi. I think we're doing a very good job with ISL. And I really am. I will tell everybody around here, please watch track and field sports. You will not like any other sport after that. I mean, if you watch Neeraj Chopra with the javelin throw, and if you watch Hima Das and Duti Chand winning those races, trust me, those stories are, you don't want anyone to come and inspire you on a panel. Just to listen to them and just to watch them on Twitter and see what they do and how they do it is incredible. I think it is inspiration personified. So track and field, I believe, is beautiful, really beautiful. Now coming to MSD, I'm a huge fan myself, and I cannot tell you how big a fan my mother is. I mean, my mother would kill someone for MSC. I think she's that crazy about him. But I think he's a really, I've never really had an interview with him, honestly. Even in the Cricket World Cup, I had an interview with Mr. Kohli, but not with MSG because he does not really give interviews. So he's very specific about the interviews that he gives, and I did not have that opportunity. But I hosted a charity gala dinner in which I had MSD as my audience, and I had Virat, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Hardik Pandya, they were my audience. And I remember, as a leader, so I will not name the player, and I went to him to get a bite, to, like for engagement. I took the mic to him and I asked him to say a few words. And he said a few words. And then I came back, and my event people said, go back to him, and, we'll get some more media bite. And, if you could just go back to him. And when I went to him, he, with his eyes, told me, not me, take the interview of the other person, because the man was feeling a little left out. With his eyes, he just did that. I think that's the beauty of a leader, to understand that, and, to communicate in the most subtle way possible. I think that says a lot about the man himself. So yeah, amazing human being. I mean, great human being, fantastic leader. Also, I feel he's got a lot of. I think he's got a bit of a. I think he's krantikari at heart. He's krantikari at heart. That is what I like about him.
Thank you so much for being candid, Ridhima. You have made
Thanks,
this big difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Ridhima.
Hi.
Swarup this side. Thank you for coming out here today to speak with us. So, I think most of us here would give up our MBA to be in your shoes just for one day because of the personalities that you meet every day. So, my question is what was the biggest fangirl moment that you had in your life? When you met someone, you just lost it all. You just forgot the script that you had in your mind and just went off that.
Yeah, I think it was Virat Kohli, my first interview, ICC Cricket World Cup. I had the questions in my mind, but I got nervous in a way that, I got scared whether I should ask him, and then he react in a very different way, because the question I wanted to ask him was, how did captaincy change after marriage? So if you go and see that interview, I have said in a way that, there was another question that came up, and, people wanted to know, and then Guma Firake finally came to the question, so that he doesn't come bashing on me. Ye kya koi sawal hai? But I think that was a very big fangirl moment, and also it's really I think I would also say that particular interview for me was a game changer. That was one. The other one was Shah Rukh Khan. And it so happened that 31st December, I was in Jodhpur, and I got a call from this production house that, we're doing this interview, and you have to come tomorrow. And I was in Delhi. And I said, listen, I have no clothes also on me. So they said, whatever you were wearing on 31st, just wear that and come. So I said, hoga yaar, koi chota mota interview hoga. So it was happening in Mehboob studio. So I went there, and till the time I landed there, they didn't tell me who was the person that, we were having this interview of. And when I went there, they gave me a vanity van and all. So my director walked in, and he came in with a script, and he said that, so you ready? I'm like, sure, sir, I'm ready. Only to tell me that who are we interviewing? So they go, we're interviewing Shah Rukh, yeah? Okay, Shah Rukh, yeah. All right, let's do Shah Rukh then. So I think that was a fangirl moment. I mean, if you see that interview, so he was a very kind. I think one thing about Shah Rukh Khan that really stood out to me is that, while people and, women are crazy about him and think that he's a very chivalrous man and everything, all of that, I feel that that man has such a great hand and such a great camaraderie and such great chemistry with women across the world, is because he truly is a gentleman. Truly is a gentleman. I remember we were only two girls in the entire Mehboob studio, and I was sitting right next to him in the same, because the camera was on me and there was one camera on him. And in the middle of the interview, he just stood up, because right in one corner there was this woman who was standing and she didn't have a chair. And he stood up and said, "Why aren't you sitting? You want to sit? Come sit." I have never seen a man do that ever. And for him to even notice that and to be making that effort, I think that is what is his charm. That he really, really respects women. I think that is his charm. So that was an interview that that was a major fangirl moment. And I always tell people that I was actually not a fan of Shah Rukh Khan. When my director asked me, "Are you a fan of Shah Rukh Khan? Are you going to get nervous?" I was like, "No, sir, I'm not a fan of Shah Rukh Khan. I mean, I'll be good." I became a fan of him after the interview because he was such a great guy. So that was one fangirl moment, and one was Virat Kohli. And then there was one with an NBA star called Sean Marion. I don't know how many of you know him. He's called the Matrix. So we did a Facebook Live with Sean Marion, and that was another like really exciting moment for me because I was first time interviewing an NBA star, and I was like watched NBA for so long, and how was it going to be? And the first thing that happened to me was that I'm just 5'4" in height. So the camera guy was like, "एक frame में तो नहीं बैठेंगे, pan करने पड़ेगा camera." That guy was almost 7. So that was the first instance that happened. I was like, okay, this is for real. These guys are really gigantic. So these were the 3 fangirl moments for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi Ridhima, this is Gautam this side. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are Gautam.
So I mean, it's been a very entertaining and engrossing session. And let me confess, I've had to cut out 5 or 10 questions because my peers have kept on asking all of those questions. So they've made me think over and keep thinking of any innovative question I can ask. So I have 2 questions for you. One is, so I'm a big sports fan, a big football fan. So my question to you is, in a live broadcasting scenario, I see and I observe that the commentators come up with facts and figures as far back as 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So my question is, do you like take in notes, or like do you memorize stuff and then just spurt it out in the spontaneous moment?
Okay. Notes. And if you see a commentator's notes, trust me, no topper of your class has made notes like that. It's a sight. I want to take a picture of that and make it public, but nobody will allow me to do that. So they use sketch pens, yellow, blue, red. And there's one sheet of paper with too many numbers written there, with too many dates written there, and so many players. And some of them are red in color, some of them are blue in color, and some of them are yellow in color, and they make their notes really well. So commentators make a lot of notes. They study very hard, and of course, because commentators like Harsha and all, who've probably done every cricket gig that has happened in the past decade or two, these guys also remember it very well because they have witnessed the match. So when you witnessed it, it is registered in your memory. And apart from that, the homework is incredible. The amount of homework they do, the amount of notes they make, it's like, I mean, trust me, we should crack a Harvard or something with those kind of notes. So yeah, there's a lot of homework. Also, what happens is that so every broadcasting team has a stats team. Which stats team works, like for example, right now I'm talking to you. So there's a mic on me. There's a stats team sitting right next to me. So they are also rehearsing and researching stats as you speak. So say if you missed out on something or suddenly you can't remember the name, like right now I cannot remember the name of that discus throw lady, that stat team will immediately send me the name of the lady. So there is also a team that is working on it. So it is a team effort. While you've done your homework and while you've drawn the conversation on that side, probably you missed out on something because your memory is not helping you. The stat team will immediately perform you that will give you that information. So there's also a stats team that is working, and memory wise, of course, memory helps because you've witnessed all the matches. But more so, commentators do some serious homework, man, and their notes are really, really very pretty looking notes. So many colors. And how they distinguish. And by the way, they take workshops in making those notes so that, it's reading them off the paper becomes very easy. So yeah, it's a lot of notes.
So, Ridhima, just 30 seconds more. I mean, one, I think you were mentioning about Deepa Malik, if I'm not wrong, the discus thrower.
Yeah, I think I'm into Deepa Malik, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
And okay, I have one another question. I'll be selfish here. 30 seconds more. I mean, I just wanted to ask you, get to see a side of the players which normal people don't see. So how do you maintain that balance when you're interacting with them? I mean, as humans, we tend to form an opinion of people. So how do you maintain that fine balance when you're interacting with all athletes, such that when people view it on their screens, it seems that you're completely unbiased?
That's a beautiful question. I think that is where being a professional comes in. I think that is the trick of the trade, that, if I call myself a professional presenter, is the fact that I can make that bifurcation of you're very right that sometimes there might be an incident, not just with the player, or probably, you just having a bad day with the producer or director, but you still have to, maintain the smile on your face and go ahead. Or say the player is in a bad mood and he's just been like, just get over the interview fast or whatever. So you still have to maintain that kind of the professionalism on camera, and I think that is where being a professional comes in. Secondly, I believe that I think you should be very forgiving towards these things about how the person is behind the camera and off the camera, because that is something that even I am. The kind of personality that I am behind the camera and the kind of personality I am in front of the camera could be two very different people. So if I'm allowed to be that, so is that person. So if I'm able to conduct myself in a certain way, I'll make sure, and as a professional, I have to make sure that the other person also conducts himself in a certain way that I direct him to, as per what my broadcasters have told me. So I think that this is what being a professional presenter is, essentially.
Thank you, Ridhima. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ridhima. This is Ripul. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Ridhima, you have certainly come a long way to be there where you are right now. And you are a coach of change in this career and other thing also. And you have a very diverse career also. So I want to ask you, what will be the next hat you will be donning in near future?
Okay, next hat. I think I want to start podcasts, and I want to bring out stories. I feel that one of the reasons why sports has chosen me is because the bigger impact on the society that I was telling you about was to basically motivate people. If I help people who are lacking a goal or not inspired enough, I think that is what sports brings to me personally. And whereas there are a lot of stories which are being, and a lot of interviews that we take of sports people, is coming from the fact that, we tend to inspire people from their struggle stories or from their stories of resilience, and we inspire a whole lot of people. I want to take out a little more personal stories if they get comfortable, and probably start my own podcast. Yeah, that is what I want to do.
And one more question I want to ask you, Ridhima, like with your insight, with this COVID coming up, what are the new ventures that is coming in this broadcast industry, where engineers or whatever we have the diverse back, cohort, where they can pitch in?
Where engineers can fit in?
Yes, not engineers, whatever diverse cohort we are having, or anybody who is having an MBA degree, they can pitch in.
So if you think about the pandemic, and even before the pandemic was, and pandemic more so, is the fact that it's underlined the fact that you need not have a bigger platform to start a journey. With whatever little limited resources you have, staying in a house with one ring light and a laptop, you are your own platform. So whichever field that you come from, whether you're an MBA or whether you're like a law student, or you're an engineer, or you're from graphic design, or whatever it is, whether you're a doctor, I think if there is something else that you're passionate about, your platform is social media. I feel you should embrace it. You should embrace tech as much as you can, because tech is the way forward. And I'm not saying it only because I'm an engineer. I truly believe that tech is the way forward. Truly. I feel like all nerds are the coolest people in the world. So tech is the way forward. And if you embrace tech very well, whatever is your passion, use it as a platform, to 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 help reach out your passion to a larger mass. So that is what the pandemic has taught us. Like housewives became such great influencers in the pandemic. They were teaching people how to cook. It was a rage. So many people, so many housewives became household names because they just cooked really well and they were a rage on social media. So why not? Why not embrace it? Why look at it as a millennial thing? I think this is the thing that you need to learn from the millennials because they're going to catch you very fast. The youngsters are coming at us. I think the biggest competitor for me today is a 23-year-old because that man, that woman has an insight into a world that I don't have, and I need to learn from her so that the competition is alive. I need to be relevant as a talent. For me to be relevant, my biggest competition becomes the youngest lot in the country, and they are embracing tech left, right, and center. So I think that is the only thing that you need to do to get your talent across the world.
Thank you, Ridhima.
Thanks.
Hello, Ridhima. Rahul this side.
Hi.
Thanks a lot for such a candid conversation. Actually, I saw you a lot, actually many times on the Sports Today, January this year, during India-Australia Test Series. So my question to you is, how do you handle emotion in such situation, especially when you are a sports fanatic and a professional anchor?
So that is something, Rahul, I'm learning because a lot of people who saw me in the Cricket World Cup 2019 must have seen that I cried when India lost to New Zealand in the semi-finals.
Yeah.
I didn't do that well. But having said that, I think one thing that I have learned is to detach myself from the feeling of being an Indian. Like when you're watching a sport, I think I really have to appreciate the sport rather than being bent towards my country. And I think that is also a journey for me. I don't think I have really embraced that to the epitome of the way I should be doing it. But the only thing, the beauty of being a presenter, and one of the things that you must have is that you should be able to detach and you should be completely unbiased. And I think, as Indians, we have so much patriotism instilled in us, and especially I come from a family which is all about India. So sometimes my emotions do get the better of me, like they did in the semi-finals. But having said that, I'm also learning that how to control my emotions. So yeah, I mean, just to detach. I think the best way to do is to detach. Just feel like these are a bunch of sportsmen playing against another bunch of sportsmen, irrespective of the country. I think that's the way I'm trying to figure it out. But it's very tough. It's very tough. Like when India loses, man, it pinches. That India versus New Zealand semi-finals, I could not stop myself, and I just could not. I think the whole country will agree with me. It was a very pinching moment. So yeah.
Thanks a lot for the answer.
Thanks, Rahul. But still learning. Still learning.
Yeah. Hi, Ekta here. Thank you for your valuable insights. Like you said that in sports industry, there is the gender diversity is average. I also come from core industry where I see very few female leaders. I also had it doubting like if no one has made it to the top management, how good are my odds? So, and there are certain perceptions in people's mind or so. How do you deal with those perceptions which are there in a certain industry?
They're not caring about it.
Okay.
It's their perception. Let it be. I don't have that perception about myself, so I will not let it come on me. Not caring. See, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
You've not heard of it, and if you choose not to hear about it, it will never bother you. And it's not my duty to change people's perception. My duty is to get my perception right. Simple as that. Is what I function on. A lot of people will give you a better advice probably, but I don't. I mean, it's a perception. If they have it, they have it. I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability, and that is all that is there in my hand. Correct? The only thing that is there in your hand is to do a good job. Rest to yaar jo hona hai, usko hoke rahega. So you can only change the world by being really good at your craft and being a good human being. You can only change that if you don't have that perception about somebody else coming. If you notice that this is a wrong perception, remember it was a wrong perception and don't carry it forward. Like I'll tell you something. I went to a marine engineering college, not naming the college, and I left it in 6 months because of ragging. All right. The worst thing I found about ragging is the fact that second year जब first year की ragging लेते थे, तो first year think कि हमारा birthright है second year में जाकर ragging लेना because हमारे साथ भी हुआ है. So this is what is continuing in your corporate sectors and everywhere across the world, where you're just getting ragged. The perceptions that you're talking about, women, men, whatever, you're just getting ragged. If you don't do that to anybody else because you've learned it the hard way, only then is it going to change. So by not caring about other people's perceptions and the fact that you've noticed that this is wrong, don't do it ever. Is something I think.
Hi Ridhima, Abhishek here.
Hi.
So my question.
I can't hear Abhishek.
Your voice is breaking.
And hello, am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, so my question is on sports debate shows. Someone who is a big fan of NBA, every day I can't get enough of the debate, let's say Jordan versus LeBron debate. So
yeah. I think Abhishek's internet is a little.
When are we going to see the mainstream? Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible now. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is, when are we going to see maybe a debate on proper mainstream show where we can see Ridhima and maybe some other sports presenters discussing Virat Kohli versus a Sachin debate? Or when are we going to have that that scenario in our country?
A sports debate.
Yeah.
Good question. See, the thing is, I think the amount of freedom media has abroad, I don't think we have as much freedom in this country. I think we are restricted a little with truly putting forward our opinions as anchors and broadcasters. I think that has to change a little. I think as media, we are supposed to have a little more freedom. We have to be a little more putting up facts the way it is, not like, not softening our tones, not being diplomatic about it. I think that's where a true sports debate can happen, where you can freely call out things that you don't like and things that you like. I mean, you have that freedom as an anchor. I can do that without, caring too much about what will happen to my following and what will happen to my reputation. And if I can do that, if I have that kind of freedom and confidence, I think a debate like that can truly happen. But I think those debates still happen, don't they? I mean, Sports Stuff does a lot of debates like that. A lot of news channels do debates like that.
Yeah, but I was more I was thinking when is it going to be a mainstream? But I guess you answered my question. I have a follow-up question. Where do you stand on LeBron versus Jordan debate?
Look, I stand on the fact that there is no way you can compare anybody to Michael Jordan. I stand right there. And there are two reasons for it. Number one, greatest of all time, greatest of all time. All right. Secondly, he was born on 17th of Feb, which is also my birthday. So there is no way I can part ways from Michael Jordan to anybody else. But yeah, Michael Jordan.
Okay. We disagree on that. I'll take that as an
I'm glad we do.
Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, Varun this side. So as you have been on both sides of the coin, on the corporate and on the as a corporate trainer and on the sports side. So my question is, as a corporate leader, what do you think the senior leadership in corporate or the business corporations as an entity can learn from sports in particular? What they can learn and take away from sports?
I think one thing that they can definitely learn about from sports is not sticking to one strategy. Innovating your strategies more often than they do, because times are changing at a very rapid state, just like our games change. And the times that we live in today is exactly like, a cricket match where there are 5 runs to be made in an over, and yet who's going to win, you don't know. And then there is a super over, and then, you know, like if you remember the England versus New Zealand final, I mean, who would win? Nobody could tell till the very last ball. I think that is the kind of times that we're living in, and I think the pandemic has also truly shown us that. So one thing that you can learn from sports is how to change your strategy to tackle with time at the go. So decision-making capability, rapid decision-making capability is a good thing to learn from sports.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I have to say this was extremely systematic. Like, did you guys have like a roll number that one would go and the second would go and the third would go? How did you guys plan this?
Ridhima, one more question from my side. This is Anuj.
Hi, Anuj.
So, as a dynamic public speaker yourself, what are the top 3 things that you would advise us to get better at public speaking? And I mean, what are the key tips from your side?
The number one tip is that you know, most people in India think that public speaking is speaking good English, which is completely false notion. Whatever language you speak, if you can communicate what you want to communicate in Marathi, Bengali, Hindi, whatever it is, you're a good speaker. Because a speaker has to communicate what I think to you. I could speak really good English, but if you don't understand a word that I've said, then I'm a horrible speaker, right? If I've not conveyed what I really meant by adding vocab that has truly gone above your head, then I'm a horrible speaker. So to get this notion that I really need to be good in English just because I need to be a great public speaker is a completely wrong notion. Be very confident in whatever language you are speaking and communicate that. And the best form of public speaking is the most natural way of talking. If naturally you speak to a friend, like do I speak to my friend like, hi, what's up? This is the NBA and I'm going to be presenting. I don't speak to my people like that. That's very fake. I speak to them like this, the way I'm talking to you, and this is how I'll speak on camera, and this is how you guys will love me because you'll relate to me. So that's the best way of public speaking, is the most natural way of talking. Thirdly, I think one of the guys mentioned about him fumbling in the question that he had asked from MSD. And I tell you that fumbling is the most natural way of failing when you speak. Like when I'm talking to you, a friend of mine, I go like, यार वो था ना यार, वो क्या था यार, समझ नहीं आ रहा मुझे, नाम क्या था? You do that. You can't do that on camera, but the thing is that you can fumble, and it's not like somebody died. Fumbling is the most natural thing that happens to a person. Everybody fumbles, and fumbling is not. Sorry, I'm back. Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So fumbling, you should not be hard on yourself if you fumble. The best way of public speaking is to speak naturally. I don't know why in a lot of schools they teach you to speak loudly as public speaking. Like suddenly you'll be on stage and you'll be screaming at the top of your voice. Like, hi, I'm Ridhima Pathak. Like no, everybody in the society is supposed to hear me out. If they don't hear me, I'm a horrible speaker. I find that really ridiculous. If you can talk very softly and the other person gets the message, you're a great speaker, man. So you don't have to shout. Hitler never shouted. He never did. He never did. One of the best orators the world has seen. He never shouted. So yeah, I think that these are these 3 tips that I'll give you. Don't stick to the language that you command, whether it's English, Bengali, Marathi, whatever. Speak in the most natural way you speak, whether it's loud, whether it's soft, whether it's slow, however you speak. Speak in the most natural tone. And fumble, don't crumble if there is a fumble. Just stay confident. And then there are a lot of other things that come in, so that you can polish yourself. That requires another session altogether. But these 3 things we can start with.
Thank you. Another question: who do you look up to in your career? I mean, maybe everybody has an idol, right? So, who do you look up to?
I answered that question. Ian Bishop. Ian Bishop
okay,
is
sorry.
someone that I really look forward to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just thinking, Anuj broke the trend of not having a question repeated, but questions over like an hour and a half. Normally a lot of these sessions don't have questions that go on for this long, but I can see so much excitement in everybody. I think this could go on for another hour.
Thank you guys. You guys have been a great audience.
I now hand it over to Niharika Jain and Arya.
Ayush, can I ask just one last question, if it is possible?
Sure.
Yeah, hi Ridhima, Pulke this side. So I just wanted to talk about, actually, as a kid, I used to watch a lot of cricket, and I was really fascinated about Test cricket. I mean, everybody watches for ODI or maybe T20, but I'm a big fan of Test. I almost watch.
Match.
I watch almost all the Test matches. I mean, I used to, I really like to talk about the technicality, the ball swing, everything. So as a kid, whenever I used to see those matches, whenever I used to listen to those commentators, I mean, speaking along, I always used to think that मेरे को भी एक दिन ना ये commentator बनना है. I mean, I used to speak along also. I mean, so even when I was preparing for JEE, so I thought, I mean, this could be one of the best career options for me. One day I'll definitely become a become a commentator. And but when I see all the commentators in the industry as of now, I see all the ex-cricketers there. So I hardly find any new face, any new one coming in and working there. So I just wanted to understand what is the career path to become a commentator eventually. Because when I get get fed up of my corporate job, maybe 5 years down the line, I'll definitely pick up this career route.
So see, why only cricket commentary? Why not any other sport commentary? Why not an NBA? Why not hockey? Why not a kabaddi? If you want to be a commentator, you can start anywhere. And if you're a sports lover, you should try to get an entry. Like, I'm just genuinely talking to you as a friend. Cricket is a tougher space to get in, because like you very rightly mentioned, that most ex-cricketers become commentators, and I think the only non-cricketer is Harsha Bhogle, and other than that we've got a Jatin Sapru now, and Alison Mitchell in BBC, and a lady commentator. Other than that, I don't think we have many non-cricketers who are commentators. And I think, if I'm not wrong, the BCCI also had a rule that non-cricketers would not be, I think they're a little stringent about whether they'd be given a space or no. And I'm sure we can only be positive that things like around this will change. But let me tell you once again, it's a talent-driven industry. If you've got talent, they'll bend rules. And there's no particular rule. If you're an exceptional talent, you will be hired. There is no doubt about that. So I think the best way, if you really want to take up this career, is to also look at opportunities with other sports. And how many languages do you speak, if I can ask you?
Hindi and English.
So Hindi has a bigger space than English does. So if you really, really speak Hindi very well, and anybody who wants to become a sports broadcaster here, work on your Hindi, man, because Hindi commentators and presenters, there's a dearth of it in India. And this is where is your space. If you're great at Hindi, आपको sports आता है, आपको हिंदी आती है, आपको काम मिलने है. So I think that is something that you should look forward to. Work on your Hindi and watch other sports. And what happens is that when you enter a broadcasting studio for some other sport, like you started hosting kabaddi in Hindi, or so you started hosting the Asian Games, जिसमें आप hockey host कर रहे हो, या badminton host कर रहे हो, या tennis कर रहे हो, जो भी कर रहे हो, if you're good enough, then you can find your space into cricket. You can move the corporate ladder. It is a corporate ladder. So if you can move directions like that, but you should be flexible. You should have knowledge about a lot of sports, and you should be bilingual at least. I mean, if you know a South language, nothing like it. Like, a lot of people have found their calling in sports commentary because they spoke really well Kannada and Malayalam. And a lot of our sports are now being broadcasted, and very heavily so, in the south regions of India. And that's why people who speak Kannada and Malayalam and watch sports are given a lot of opportunities. So that's another field. Yeah.
So a lot to explore then.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you.
Permutation combinations a little bit.
Yes, and probably I'll replace Akash Chopra one day then if I talk about Hindi commentary.
Why not?
Thank you so much.
But great guy, he's a great guy.